The British Special Air Service is the most imitated special operations unit in history. Units like Delta Force, the Navy SEALs, the Australian SASR, and Germany's KSK all trace their lineage back to a group of desert raiders who changed warfare in 1941. But here's the thing about students. Sometimes they surpass their teachers. Not in everything, not even in most things. But in one specific capability, America's Delta Force has developed an edge that even the legendary SAS struggles to match. And it is not because American operators are inherently better. It is because of a decision made in 1977 that shaped everything Delta would become. To understand that edge, you need to understand why these units exist in the first place, and why one was built for a very different purpose than the other. The SAS was born in the North African desert during World War II. A British officer named David Stirling had an idea that seemed insane at the time. Instead of using thousands of soldiers to attack enemy positions, why not use small teams of highly trained men to slip behind enemy lines and destroy aircraft on the ground? The concept worked beyond anyone's expectations. Stirling's raiders destroyed over 400 Axis aircraft in their first year of operations. They proved that a handful of the right men, with the right training, could accomplish what entire regiments could not. But notice what the SAS was built to do. Long-range infiltration, sabotage, raiding behind enemy lines, living in hostile territory for weeks at a time, gathering intelligence, disrupting supply lines. The founding DNA of the Special Air Service was about operating in the shadows, far from friendly forces, surviving on their own in some of the harshest environments on Earth. That DNA never left. Even today, the SAS maintains capabilities in long-range reconnaissance, behind-the-lines operations, and unconventional warfare that reflect their World War II origins. They're still the regiment that can disappear into a jungle or a mountain range and operate independently for extended periods. Delta Force came from a completely different crisis. In 1972, Palestinian terrorists took Israeli athletes hostage at the Munich Olympics. The rescue attempt by German police was a disaster. 11 Israelis died. The world watched on television as a hostage crisis spiraled into tragedy. American military planners realized something terrifying. The United States had no unit specifically designed to handle situations like Munich. If terrorists seized an American embassy or hijacked an American aircraft or took American hostages anywhere in the world, there was no dedicated force trained for the surgical precision required to save those lives. Then came 1979 and the Iranian hostage crisis. 52 Americans were held captive in Tehran for over a year. The rescue attempt, Operation Eagle Claw, ended in catastrophe in the Iranian desert. 8 American servicemen died. No hostages were rescued. The mission never even reached Tehran. The failure of Eagle Claw did not create Delta Force. Colonel Charlie Beckwith had already stood the unit up in 1977. But the disaster in Iran proved exactly why Delta needed to exist, and it shaped the unit's obsessive focus on one specific mission set: counterterrorism, hostage rescue, surgical operations in confined spaces where the margin between saving lives and taking them is measured in fractions of a second. The SAS could do these missions. They proved it at the Iranian embassy siege in London in 1980 when the world watched SAS operators storm the building and rescue hostages on live television. That operation remains one of the most famous special operations successes in history. But here's the critical difference. For the SAS, counterterrorism and hostage rescue were capabilities they added to their existing portfolio. Important capabilities, certainly, but additions to a unit whose core identity was forged in desert raiding and unconventional warfare. For Delta Force, close quarters battle wasn't an addition. It was the entire reason they existed. Charlie Beckwith designed Delta from the ground up with one question in mind: how do you build the most effective door-kicking, room-clearing, hostage-rescuing force on the planet? Everything flowed from that question. The selection process emphasizes psychological stability under pressure as much as physical fitness. The training facilities allow operators to fire live ammunition in realistic environments thousands of times before ever deploying. The unit structure prioritizes small team cohesion over large force operations, and most importantly, there is an institutional obsession with what happens in the fatal funnel. That narrow space where an operator enters a room not knowing what is on the other side. Where an operator has to identify threats, distinguish hostages from hostage takers, make shoot or do not shoot decisions, and execute those decisions with perfect accuracy, all in less time than it takes to read the sentence. The SAS trains extensively for these situations. So do SEAL Team 6 and dozens of other special operations units worldwide. But Delta's entire existence is built around perfecting this single capability to an almost absurd degree. Consider the training facility at Fort Bragg, known informally as the House of Horrors. Delta operators do not just practice room clearing, they live it. They run through shoot houses with live ammunition flying inches from role players who stand in as hostages. They practice every scenario imaginable. Multiple rooms, stairwells, aircraft fuselages, ship compartments, embassy layouts, hotel corridors. They practice in daylight and total darkness, with night vision and without, with flashbangs disorienting everyone in the room, including themselves, with smoke obscuring their targets, with screaming hostages and silent ones, with threats that surrender and threats that fight. And they do it over and over and over again until the mechanics become unconscious, until the weapon comes up and the sights align and the trigger breaks without conscious thought, until the decision tree that separates an innocent person from a threat happens faster than the analytical mind can process. This is what Charlie Beckwith wanted. Operators who could function in the chaos of a hostage rescue the way a concert pianist functions at the keyboard. The movements trained so deeply into muscle memory that conscious thought would only slow them down. But training alone does not explain Delta's edge. Training can be replicated. Other units can build their own shoot houses and run their own drills. What Delta developed was something harder to copy: operational tempo. After September 11th, Delta Force deployed to Afghanistan and then Iraq. And in Iraq especially, they found themselves conducting direct action raids at a pace that no special operations unit in history had ever sustained. During the surge years, Delta operators in Iraq were hitting multiple targets per night, not per week. Per night. They would finish one compound raid, get back on the helicopters, and fly directly to the next target based on intelligence gathered from the first one. This was not just combat. It was graduate-level education in close-quarters battle, taught in the most demanding classroom imaginable. Real rooms, real threats, real consequences for mistakes. By some estimates, Delta conducted thousands of compound raids during the Iraq War alone. Thousands of doors kicked, thousands of rooms cleared, thousands of split-second decisions made under conditions where getting it wrong meant dead hostages or dead teammates or dead operators. Institutional knowledge accumulated from this operational tempo is almost impossible to quantify. Every raid generated lessons: what worked, what did not, how threats behaved in certain situations, how to read body language in the milliseconds before someone becomes a combatant, how structures are laid out in different parts of the world, how to move through a building faster than defenders can react. This knowledge did not stay with individual operators. It got fed back into the training pipeline. The shoot house scenarios at Fort Bragg evolved constantly based on real-world experience from the night before. Tactics that worked in Mosul would be incorporated into training in North Carolina within days. Delta became a learning organization in the most literal sense. Every operation was data, every raid was research and development, and all of it focused on the same narrow problem set that had defined the unit since 1977. How do you get into a room faster, more precisely, and with less collateral damage than anyone else on Earth? The SAS maintained their own operational tempo during this period. British Special Forces were deeply involved in both Afghanistan and Iraq. They conducted their share of direct action raids and accumulated hard-won experience. The scale was different. The American Special Operations Enterprise is simply larger than its British counterpart. More operators, more helicopters, more support infrastructure, more raids. And in the specific domain of close quarters battle, more repetitions of the exact scenarios that Delta was built to dominate. This is not a criticism of the SAS. The British Regiment remains one of the most capable special operations units in the world. In certain areas, their capabilities exceed what Delta Force can bring to the fight. Long-duration reconnaissance operations, language skills, and cultural integration in certain regions, specific technical specialties that the smaller British military has cultivated out of necessity. The relationship between the two units remains one of mutual respect and active collaboration. Delta operators still attend SAS courses. SAS personnel still train at American facilities. Joint operations between British and American Special Operations Forces are routine. When Delta Force needs to learn something about operating in environments where the SAS has more experience, they pick up the phone. When the SAS wants to incorporate the latest American techniques in close quarters battle, the exchange goes the other way. If you need a door kicked down, a room cleared, and hostages extracted in the minimum possible time with the minimum possible casualties, the honest assessment from professionals on both sides of the Atlantic is that Delta Force has optimized for this mission set more intensively than any other unit in existence. It's not because American operators are braver or tougher or more skilled in some abstract sense. The SAS selection process is legendarily brutal. Their operators are among the most capable soldiers on the planet. The difference is purpose. The SAS was built to be versatile. It was designed to handle everything from desert warfare to Arctic operations, from counterterrorism to long-range reconnaissance. That versatility is a strength. It makes the regiment adaptable to virtually any mission set the British government requires. Delta was built to be specialized, to do one narrow set of things better than anyone else. That specialization came with trade-offs. There are missions the SAS handles routinely that Delta would approach differently, or not at all. But in the specific domain of close quarters battle, that specialization has paid dividends that decades of experience have compounded. The unit that Charlie Beckwith founded to rescue hostages has become the world's foremost authority on surgical violence in confined spaces. This is what happens when founding purpose meets operational tempo and institutional learning. The SAS taught Delta how to be a special operations unit. Then Delta spent 40 years optimizing for a single mission set with resources and repetitions that no other unit could match. The student did not surpass the teacher in everything, just in the one thing the student was specifically built to master. That's the real lesson of the Delta and SAS comparison. Elite units are not interchangeable. Their histories shape their capabilities. Their founding purposes echo through decades of training and operations. The SAS will always carry the DNA of desert raiders who operated alone behind enemy lines. Delta will always carry the DNA of a counter-terrorism response force built to save lives in the world's most dangerous rooms. Both approaches produce world-class operators. Both units remain at the absolute pinnacle of the special operations profession. The differences between them matter less than what they share, which is a commitment to excellence that most military forces can only aspire to. But if someone asks which unit you would want clearing the room your family was held hostage in, the professionals who know both organizations would give you the same answer. You would want the one that has been doing nothing else for 40 years. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. I cover military history and special operations every week with the same level of detail. And if you want to understand how Delta's selection process creates the operators we just discussed, that video is on screen now.